I want to ask a question. How many of you remember your first car? Let me see your hand. If your first car was kind of like my first car, you didn't drive it off the dealer lot with the new car smell, did you? I mean, your first car is one of those cars that has a lot of miles on it, and sometimes the windows don't work, sometimes the gears don't work, sometimes the odometer doesn't work, but it's your car. And you remember that feeling with your car? I won't tell you about my first car. It was a chick magnet. 1972 VW Bug. Had the two skinny exhausts coming out, not that one big exhaust. It was vintage. 4-speed. Reverse didn't work in it, but that was okay. You just parked where you didn't need to use reverse. And if you got stuck in a situation, you're in a VW. You can push it. So it was okay. But it was my car. I got it my junior year in college, and I thought I was somebody. I owned a car. Now, let me tell you the difference of when I drove my parents' car. You see, when I drove my parents' car, I didn't really care where I parked. Somebody could ding their car. It didn't bother me. It's their car. But when I owned my car, I was careful where I parked. When I owned my car for the first 6 months that I owned it, I kept it clean. I never cleaned my parents' car. There's something about ownership. It helps us and teaches us about responsibility. If we feel responsible for something, then we have ownership in whatever that is, whether it's a material thing, whether it's a club or an organization. We feel ownership when we have responsibility. Now, why do we begin there? Because that scripture that King read this morning, to me, that's kind of what Jesus is trying to get across to his disciples. They need to be invested in the gospel. They need to be invested in the faith. Really, from the 10th chapter through the 15th chapter, Jesus is preparing those disciples. And he's telling them things like, I'm not always going to be with you. He's telling them things like, I want you to carry on even after I'm gone. And the disciples, sometimes they just don't understand. And so Jesus says, let me paint you a picture here. I'm the good shepherd. And as a good shepherd, I feel responsibility for all of you. I feel responsibility for the world. The good shepherd will lay down his life for any of his sheep. Now, there are going to be those who tell you that they love you and those who say that they care for you, but they're not going to have any responsibility. They're not going to have ownership in your life. They're going to be like the hired hand, who when trouble comes, runs away. Because the hired hand is only concerned about his life. He has no investment in you. He has no ownership, feels no responsibility for your life. I am the good shepherd, Jesus says, and I will lay down my life for my sheep. What a powerful message that is. Have you ever been a part of something that you truly felt ownership in? Maybe it was a community of faith. Maybe it is a social club. Maybe it's being a fireman or a policeman or an EMS worker. Maybe that's what it is. You feel that sense of responsibility and you feel that sense of ownership. To me, it's kind of like in families. How many of you grew up with brothers and sisters? Let me see your hands. Or you're still growing up with them? There were 4 of us in the Christie family, and I thought brothers and sister. I had one sister, she's 5 years older, and I thought God gave you brothers and sisters just so you could pick on them. And that was good for a while. But you know, I also had this sense of ownership and responsibility to being a Christian. I figured that out in about the 10th grade. My little brother David was in the 6th grade, and we went to 2 separate schools. Now, I used to pick on David and beat him up every chance that I could. But for a whole week, David went to his school, and there was this bully there. And he stole my little brother's lunch all week. Now, Dave would come home, and he would be upset, and I'd kind of laugh at him for a while. But then after it happened for 4 days, you know, that kid should not be picking on my brother. I was the only one that could do that.